read the third book in the Song of Ice and Fire, A Storm of Swords. So I feel a little bit different about this one than the other two. I love the other two, and I love this one too. It's a good book, but I feel pretty divided on it. So let's start with the bad. The bad is that it's a really long book. It's longer than the last two, and it's over 1,000 pages. It's really long, and as where the last books, it kind of flew by and I didn't really feel its length. The length kind of caught up to it in this one. Mainly is in the first half. I felt like the first half dragged a little bit. Just like there was some stuff that could have been cut out, and there were a few times in the first half where I grew kind of bored and just felt like the story was dragging. That's my biggest complaint was, yeah, I kind of felt like it dragged a little bit in the first half. I mean, an example is the Arya chapters. There's a lot of Arya chapters in here. She actually gets the most chapters in this book, and I feel like not a lot happens in her story in this one. Like, well, she's found by the Brotherhood or whatever it's called, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna go take you to Beric Dondarrion. And then it's like 3 Arya chapters after that they finally meet. Beric Dondarrion. And like all the chapters in between is kind of like, does really need to be in here? Okay, yeah, they're traveling. Okay, they stopped by some random house. Okay, I don't know, I don't even remember all what happened in those chapters. I kind of blanked them out because it just kind of seemed unnecessary. And like her story seemed like it just kind of dragged. And Arya actually has the most chapters in this book out of everyone. Yeah, that's my biggest complaint is the first half kind of drags. And like I really, because it's also really long, over 1,000 pages. I feel like maybe the author could have gotten rid of like 100 pages maybe. I feel like it just would have gone a bit quicker just because it did drag in the first part. So that's kind of what I didn't like about this. But fortunately, that's really all the bad. So now let's get to the good. So I said it dragged in the first half. Yeah, the first half kind of dragged, but once you get to, it's about the halfway point. Once you get to like the Red Wedding, and that's about at the halfway point. Once you get there, the story just explodes and just keeps going like just hits you with important events like the Red Wedding, the battle on the wall against the wildlings, Joffrey's wedding, and Tyrion's trial all happened in this book. And so like once you get to those, it hits you like one thing after another, like bam, 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 with like huge events in the story. And so really, once you get to the halfway point, it really picks up. And once you get there, it's a breeze, and it's a lot bigger of a story. But yeah, so like it dragged in the first part, but also like the stuff that's good about this book is so good, and is like for an example, the Jaime chapters. This is the first book Jaime gets POV, and anytime it was a Jaime chapter, I was like hooked. Like every single one of his chapters is so good, and some of the best stuff in the series, and like some of the best stuff I've read, period. Like what is good in this book is really good, but just the stuff that isn't so good is not so good. And so that's why I feel kind of mixed about this, because like it kind of dragged as I didn't feel like the other books did, but also what's good in this book is better than the previous two. And so it's a pretty mixed bag. I mean, if you're reading A Song of Ice and Fire, you might as well read this one. You might as well just read them all. Like it doesn't, the bad isn't so bad that you shouldn't read the series. If you're already reading it, read this one. Like it's a blast. Once you get to the halfway point, it is really good and picks up. Also, this one kind of it deters from the show a bit more than the last, and I've heard that as the series goes on, it differs from the show more and more. But this one, I guess I kind of started to feel it because in the show, this book is season 3 and 4, which I wasn't expecting because there are 2 more books and they ran out of source material after season 4. So I'm like, I was not expecting all of this to happen in this book. This kind of goes with the dragging, but it kind of seemed like the beginning kind of focused on like 3 or 4 characters, and then the next section focused on like 3 or 4 characters, and then the next section focused on 3 or 4 characters. That's kind of how this felt. It was like formatted a little bit. It felt kind of like sporadic, and it felt like a lot of characters were kind of just like almost just sitting around waiting for the story to catch up so that they could actually go on their story, which also adds to the length. Like, it didn't feel as tight as the other two. Because it's like it feels like the beginning kind of focused on Arya a lot and like Jaime, and then you get to the Red Wedding and it's a lot like Catelyn, and I think also teetered on Arya, and then you get to like more King's Landing stuff, and that's when like Tyrion's story picks up, and Sansa's story picks up, and so on and so forth. And so it felt a lot of like a shuffling of characters in like first section 3 or 4 characters, next section 3 or 4 characters, and so on, as I said. And it just doesn't feel as tight of a story, just because it feels like there's a lot of the characters kind of aren't doing anything until it picks up. But I don't know, those are kind of all my thoughts. It's a bit of a shorter review. Nothing wrong with that, but it's a good book. If you want to read this series, I'd recommend. Just keep in mind that the first half does drag a little bit.